Natalia Bonner. Welcome to 9 Patchalong Block 8. You guys, we're almost to the end. This has been so much fun. If you have not yet been sharing your progress in our Facebook group, make sure you do. Check out the links below. We'd love to have you join and share your progress in that group. Today we're going to be stitching this fun block using my Gamble 22-inch machine. The thread that we are going to be using today on the top is so fine, and on the bottom I'm using bottom line. That is my favorite thread combination. Personally, I've had great success with those, so that's what I'm sticking with. But in the meantime, let's get stitching. I'll start out this block design by adding a few measurements. I'm going to use a blue Mark Be Gone marker and mark the center on the outside of all of these blocks. From there, then I'm ready to begin stitching. I'll begin stitching on the lower left marked point on the side of my block. From there, I'll stitch from that point down to the bottom of the block. At the bottom, I'll adjust my ruler and continue stitching point to point all the way up to the opposite side of the block. When I get to as far as I can across my block, then I'll adjust my ruler, stitch up to the top, and repeat that process stitching down, and I should end right where I started stitching. From that point, now I'm going to travel up the ditch, up the side of my block to the next center marked point, where I'll repeat that same process, stitching point to point until I get to the bottom side of the block. When I get to the bottom of the block, then I'll adjust my ruler and stitch point to the opposite side of the block. At that side, I'll adjust my ruler and repeat that process, stitching point to point until I get to the top of the block. At the top of the block, then I'll adjust my ruler again and continue stitching point to point. I want to end this section right where I started. Now I'll repeat that process one more time. So I'm traveling up to the next marked point and I'll stitch point to point all the way around, ending up where I started stitching. Now, this is the point. You could leave this block design quilted just as it is. It would be beautiful like this, kind of a variation of like a cross-hatching type design. But you know I'm going to dress it up just a little bit. So I am actually going to dress this design up, and we're going to use a variation of the napkin quilt block design from my Stitch Along Let's Stitch a Block a Day, 365 days of machine quilting with my machine quilting rulers. So let's dress that up just a little bit. From that outside point, I'm going to use the medium size curve on my mini 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler and stitch point to point. Once I've stitched all the way across the top of that first row, then I'm going to adjust my mini machine quilting ruler and stitch a point to point curve coming back across the bottom of those blocks. Once I've stitched all the way back across, then I'll travel down my ditch, and I'm going to repeat this process one more time, stitching across the top side of each of these blocks all the way across. Now, I am showing you this here on a 9 patch, but this is another design that could be beautiful on really any type of a patchwork design. So the sky's the limit. It could be a 4 patch, a 16 patch, really just a whole patchwork quilt. You could stitch in the same manner. So once I've stitched all the way across, then I'll adjust my machine quilting ruler and stitch those point to point curves coming all the way back. Once I get all the way back, then I'm going to stitch down the ditch down the side of my block to the bottom row, where I'll repeat that process one final time. Point to point curves across the top, adjust my ruler, and stitch point to point curves coming back to where I started. Now you can leave that design just as it is. It's beautiful like that, but personally I love the look of Stitch in the Ditch, so I'm going to dress it up just a little bit more. I'll stitch those 2 horizontal lines through the 9 patch, and then after I've stitched those, I'll adjust and stitch the 2 vertical lines through the center of my block. From there, I've got a beautiful quilt block design. I hope each of you were able to find just a little bit of inspiration from today's machine quilting video. And don't forget, we'd love to see pictures and progress and what you're working on with these 9 patch designs in our Facebook group, the 9 Patchalong. Have a great day, everybody.